What's up guys, Kennedy here, and in this video I'm gonna show you probably the best or the most efficient way of fixing a flat tire. No matter whether you run a tubeless system or a tire with the inner tube, I'm gonna show you how to fix it. So this is the system with the inner tube because that's the best way of showing you everything that you need to know about it. This one is okay, but I'm gonna just show you what I would do if it was a flat tire. So maybe thing number one is that I can easily find my valve because let's say we are in racing conditions and I'm gonna fix the problem myself, so it's good way to mount the tire onto the rim with some sign showing you the valve. In this case I have just only one Schwalbe sign of this on this tire, so when I see Schwalbe I know the valve will be there. And maybe finding the valve is not that complicated, but when you are really in rush and you are stressed out during the racing conditions, it doesn't seem that easy then. Alright, so the first step is, of course, to take our tire off, but not completely. In order to do that we use our tire levers. I'm not just using one lever. I would be able to take this tire off just by using one lever, but I don't like doing it like this because we are always damaging at least a little bit the bit of the tire. So I'm just opening the tire with one lever, and then I use the other lever to take the pressure of the tire, and then we can easily open up the space for our inner tube to take it off. Now the second step is, and it's something that not many people are using in the tutorials, that's why I made this video, is to take the inner tube off, right? So we are opening the space for the inner tube and then we take it off. But now, please stop here. We don't simply take this off and throw it away or just lay it somewhere to be fixed, but we have to remember how the inner tube was placed in the wheel. So I'm just laying down the wheel with the inner tube. I don't do anything with the inner tube. I just know it was like that. And that's one of the most important steps in our fixing process. Why, I will show you just in a minute. Okay, this inner tube is flat, doesn't have almost any pressure in it, so I'm gonna pump it up a little bit. Now at this point you may already hear that there is some hole in the inner tube. But quite often that would be something very little. In racing condition you don't hear that well and everything that well. So I would take the inner tube and try to feel the air coming off the tube. And believe me, even if there is some very tiny hole, you would feel the air coming off the inner tube. So let's just say we have found some hole just here. Now, why did we put the inner tube on the wheel just like this, not changing the position between the wheel and the inner tube? It's because the step number 2 will be to find the cause of our problem. And now when I already know where the hole is, I can very easily find the place in the tire. So I can see it was just here, right? At this point, if we are at home, we can mark the place so that we will easily find it again without pumping it up, just like this. If we are somewhere in the field and we want to fix the inner tube, we can already start to fix the inner tube, or just remember where the hole was. It won't be very problematic to find it again, but I'm just leaving it as it was, and I know that my hole in the tire should be somewhere here. So now we can just open up the tire and we will find the place where the hole is. If there is still some piece of glass or metal or anything that made the damage in on our inner tube, we will just see it and we'll be able to take it off. I don't really understand why most of the riders in the tutorials would say that we should just open the tire and find the piece of metal or glass or anything in our tire with our fingers. We don't want to find any piece of glass in our tires just by, oh, I found it. It's not the best way, and also it's more time consuming. So remembering how the inner tube was positioned in the tire will solve those problems. Thanks to that, we already know where the hole was. We took off the piece of metal or anything that was in our tire, or we can find then nothing, so we know that the tire is okay. And now we can start fixing our inner tube. If you just replace your inner tube, you know that the tire is all right. You just put the new inner tube and you're good to go. But if you want to fix this one, I'll just give you a couple of tips. Alright, we have the place with a hole in it, and I'm gonna use some patches. The best way is to use those patches with the glue on them already, so you can just take them off and just stick them on the inner tube. I'm having here one that I need to use glue for, but doesn't matter whether we need a glue or not, but it's always good to have a piece of sandpaper in order to prepare the surface on our inner tube for our patch to stick onto very well. We do it in different directions. Another thing is that our tube is very flexible. Those patches are not that flexible. Some of them are not flexible at all. And when we are pumping the wheel, the inner tube stretches, but the patch will not stretch as good, as fine as the inner tube. This is why I never put patches on the inner tube with no air in it. I would rather inflate a little bit more than I have now, maybe just like that. So the inner tube is already stretched a little bit, and then I would glue my patch on it. And when I stick the patch on my inner tubes, those would be there like forever. But when we are using the glue and the surface is ready for the patch, just remember to put the glue on the inner tube and then wait for a couple of minutes. When the surface with the glue on it is already matte, it means that it dried up a little bit, then we are ready to stick the patch on it. If I'm fixing my inner tube just at home in my garage, I would just stick the patch and then put the inner tube into the wheel right away and pump it just a little bit, not to the full PSI that I usually use them in my wheels. But pumping the inner tube in the wheel will make the inner tube press against the tire, and then the patch will stick there like forever. So let's say we have the inner tube with the patch on it already, or you've got already the new inner tube and you want to replace it, or you're running a tubeless tire but you've got a flat, so you want to put the inner tube into the tire. First step here is again to position, at least for myself, to position the tire with some sign, something remarkable against the hole for the valve, so that the valve will be easy to find. Inflating just a little bit air into the inner tube before we put it into the wheel will give it a shape and will help us to put it all together. So I'm putting now the inner tube. I know that the tire is clean, so my inner tube is already in the wheel. Now we are putting the tire back onto our rim. I would highly recommend to start with this area where the valve is, because this one could be quite tight and we want to make sure that the inner tube is on its place here. As you can see, this tire is very easy. I'm just doing it with my fingers, and I would be able to take it off also without the tire levers. Then when you have like 10 or 15 centimeters left, the bit would not like to jump into the rim. When it's a sunny weather, putting the tire on the sun will make the tire the compound more flexible and will help you with this problem. Another thing is also that if you don't want to have this tire that tight here at this place, it's very good to push the bit of the tire just to the center of the rim, just to the center, because that's the place that will give our tire most flexibility. And now you can see it just jumped in. Now I want to make sure that the valve is all the way in and the tube here is all the way into the tire, so that's fine. And now we're gonna start inflating. Alright, I'm using the mini pump just as I would be somewhere in the field. But now, before the tire gets really tough, I can still move it around. I want to make sure that the tire is exactly on its place. And maybe you will see there is a small line here. It comes off the rim, but then on the other side it comes into the rim. So here we can see that the tire isn't put evenly into the rim, and I can still fix that because I didn't inflate too much of the tire. We can spin the wheel as well and see how it looks. It doesn't look very good just yet, but I think now inflating more will help the tire to come into place. The job is done. I have inflated this tire to 42 psi. It should be inflated between 30 to 55, and it's very round. It looks very good. Now I'm ready to go. By using all those steps I've shown you here, we can easily find the valve, then we can easily find the cause of our flat tire. We know how to fix the inner tube or how to replace it. And then we know some tips on how to put the not so flexible tire onto its place. If you've got more questions regarding flat tires or you have some suggestions how do you fix them, just let me know in the comments below, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.